Chapter 41. The Gate of the Forgotten. Ethan stood before the gate, his breath uneven. The obsidian structure pulsed with an unnatural energy, the massive rusted chains straining against an unseen force. The whispers from beyond were louder now, not the master's voice, something else, something older. "You are close now." Ethan's mark burned, the sigil on his chest pulsing in perfect rhythm with the cracks in the gate. He shouldn't be here, none of them should. But it was too late to turn back. The others feel it too. Leah's fingers tightened around her staff. This place, it's not like the others. Gareth's jaw was set, his grip firm on his spear. This one was meant to stay hidden. Kara scoffed, though there was unease in her eyes. So why the hell is it waking up now? Ethan exhaled, because someone was breaking the chains. And whether it was the master, or something else, it was already too late to stop it. A notification flashed in Ethan's vision, but this one was different. System alert, danger classification, unidentified. Location, Gate of the Forgotten. Warning, unknown entity presence detected. The system didn't recognize this place, just like the library ruins, just like the Eastern prison. And that meant one thing. Whatever was behind this gate, it existed outside the system's design, something that wasn't meant to be part of this world. And now it was about to return. The first chain breaks, a deep grinding sound echoed through the chamber. Ethan's chest tightened. One of the chains cracked, the metal shattered, pieces falling to the ground like broken stone. Leah took a step back. "Did we do that?" Ethan shook his head. No. The chain had weakened on its own, and that meant whatever was on the other side, it was fighting to get out. Ethan's vision blurred. For a split second, he wasn't in the ruins anymore. He was somewhere else. A battlefield of shadows, stretching into endless darkness. Figures in cloaks, wielding glowing weapons, chanting forbidden incantations, a massive towering entity. A being that shifted between shapes, its form never staying constant. The people fought, and they failed. One by one, they fell, their bodies turning to twisted, blackened husks. Until the last survivor, a figure wearing the same sigil Ethan bore on his chest, sealed the gate shut. And then, everything faded. Ethan gasped, stumbling back into reality. Leah grabbed his arm. "Ethan!" "What was that?" He blinked hard. "I don't know." But something inside him did. Because he had felt it. This thing, whatever was locked away here, it had been defeated once, barely. And now, it was about to wake up. Gareth's voice was grim. "We need to decide." Kara narrowed her eyes. "Decide what?" Leah exhaled, looking at Ethan. "Whether we finish what they started." Ethan looked back at the gate, at the remaining chains. The thing behind it was waiting, and he knew. They had two choices. Leave now, tell the guild, hope someone stronger could handle it, or try to reseal the gate themselves before the last chain broke. But there was a third choice, one Ethan didn't want to admit, or open the gate and face whatever was inside. Because deep down, something in his mark was telling him one thing. The master wasn't the real threat. The real threat was the thing the master was trying to release, and if it broke free, there wouldn't be a world left to save. Chapter 42. The Breaking Point. The air hummed with tension. Ethan's fingers hovered over his daggers, his heart pounding like a war drum. The Gate of the Forgotten loomed before them, its remaining chains trembling, resisting the force that tried to shatter them from within. One chain had already broken, and the second was cracking, pulsing with dark energy. Only one remained untouched, for now. And in his mind's eye, Ethan saw what came next. The chains would fail, the thing inside would wake up. And the world, the entire world, would never be the same. A choice no one wants to make. Kara's grip tightened around her sword. "Tell me we're not seriously considering opening that thing." Gareth shook his head. But we need to decide what we're doing before it happens on its own." Leah's voice was uneven. "If we leave now, we might still have time to warn the guild." Ethan clenched his fists. "We don't have time." His mark burned, an undeniable truth searing into his bones. The gate was already failing. They could either act now or deal with what came next. And something told him, if they let this thing loose, even an army wouldn't be able to stop it. A low, grinding noise echoed through the ruins. The second chain cracked, then shattered. A pulse of raw energy blasted outward, shaking the entire city. Kara staggered. Shit! Leah's light magic flared, forming a barrier just in time to block a wave of unnatural force. Gareth braced himself, his spear planted firmly in the ground. Ethan's vision blurred. The whispers turned into a roar. "Come, little predator. Witness what was taken from us." Something on the other side was awake now, and it knew he was here. Ethan staggered forward, barely aware of the others shouting his name. The gate pulled at him, his mark pulsing in sync with the sigils along its surface. He saw flashes of another time of figures in black robes, performing ancient rites, and a city standing at the edge of oblivion, swallowed in darkness. A war that ended with a desperate act, a final sealing. And in the center of it all, a towering, shifting figure, wrapped in chains of light and shadow. Something that was never meant to be seen again. Something that was about to return. A new presence arrives. Then, a voice broke through the madness. But it wasn't the master. And it wasn't the thing behind the gate. It was human. Step away from the seal. Ethan's body froze. A presence unlike anything he had ever felt descended upon the ruins. Heavy, commanding, unshakable. And then, from the shadows beyond the chamber they appeared. A team of 5 figures, clad in high-grade enchanted armor, their weapons glowing with raw power. They weren't normal adventurers. They weren't even A-rank. They were S-rank. The strongest of the strong, and they had come for the gate. Chapter 43. Power Beyond Understanding. The S-rank arrival. Ethan could barely breathe. The 6 S-rank adventurers stood before the Gate of the Forgotten, their presence crushing in its sheer intensity. Islan Stormrider, the Voidblade warlord, radiated power, his hand resting on the hilt of his legendary blade. Kyla Ravencrown, the arcane executioner, scanned the gate with piercing violet eyes, analyzing its magic. Darius Ironheart, the unbreakable guardian, planted his massive shield into the ground, ready for war. Lyra Moonveil, the celestial healer, whispered a soft incantation, her golden aura calming the space. Razik Thornfang, the phantom slayer, barely moved, his form flickering like a shadow in the mist. Orin Blackthorn, the arcane juggernaut, cracked his knuckles, arcs of raw mana flickering around him. Their eyes fell on Ethan's team, assessing, measuring. And then Valen spoke. "Step away from the gate." Ethan's pulse pounded. These weren't just adventurers, these were living legends. But this wasn't their fight. Not yet. Gareth took a measured breath. "We've been investigating these ruins for days. That gate," he gestured, "is about to break open. You just got here." Kayla's gaze flickered, unimpressed. "And your point?" Kara scowled. "Our point is, we know more about what's happening than you do." Orin let out a short, amused laugh. "Cute," he mused, folding his arms, "but irrelevant." Ethan stepped forward. "You don't understand," he said. "Something behind that gate, something older than the system, is waking up." Valan's silver eyes locked onto him. "And you think we don't know that?" His voice was calm, controlled, but Ethan felt the weight behind it. This is a man who has faced horrors beyond imagination. And survived. Valen continued, "We were sent from the capital to handle this situation. You were not." Leah's voice shook. "So you're just going to barge in and expect us to step aside?" Darius Ironheart tilted his head. "Yes." The word was spoken with absolute certainty, like a fact, like an undeniable truth. And for the first time, Ethan felt something dangerous, something he hadn't expected. "We are outclassed, completely." A sudden pulse of dark energy exploded outward. The Gate of the Forgotten trembled, another crack forming along its surface. A voice, deep, ancient, and cold, whispered through the air. "More have come. More to witness. More to break." Ethan staggered, his mark burning white-hot. Valan's eyes narrowed. Kyla's arcane senses flared. Orin cursed, stepping back. That thing's alive. The chains rattled violently, the city itself trembled. And then, a system message flashed. System alert, final seal weakening. Gate status, 92% compromised. Recommendation, immediate intervention. Kyla's expression darkened. Well, that's new. Ethan's fists clenched. They were running out of time. And now, they had to decide who was going to stop it. Chapter 44, A Plan Divided. The tremors from the Gate of the Forgotten had finally subsided. For now, but the air remained thick, charged with an unseen force. The S-rank team stood like statues, their presence overwhelming. Ethan's team, despite their B-rank status, refused to back down. Two forces, two different approaches. And the gate stood between them, a ticking bomb waiting to go off. The dispute begins. Valan Stormrider's cold silver eyes scanned the group before him. "You've done well reaching this far," he said, his tone measured, unwavering. "But your part in this is over." Kara scoffed. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did we call for backup?" Kayla Ravencrown, the arcane executioner, let out a short laugh. "No," she said simply, "but you should have." Leah clenched her fists. "The last team sent here disappeared. You think we're just going to leave and hope you don't meet the same fate?" Darius Ironheart, the unbreakable guardian, crossed his arms. "If we fail, there's nothing left for you to stop." Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. They weren't wrong. These six were the strongest adventurers alive. But that didn't mean they understood the true danger. Because Ethan knew something they didn't. He had felt it through his mark. The thing behind the gate, whatever it was, wanted him there. Ethan took a step forward. No. The S-ranks turned their attention to him. He met Valen's steel-hard gaze and continued. "We're not leaving." Razik Thornfang, the Phantom Slayer, raised an eyebrow. "That's bold." Ethan exhaled sharply. "You don't know what's behind this gate. You don't know what's waiting." Orin Blackthorn, the arcane juggernaut, smirked. "And you do." Ethan's mark pulsed under his shirt. "I do." Valen's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Ethan clenched his fists. "It's not just a seal, it's a prison. And it wasn't made by the system." Silence. Even Lyra Moonveil, the celestial healer, looked taken aback. Kayla tilted her head. "That's a hell of a claim." Ethan didn't waver. "This thing, it's older than the system, older than our world." The words felt heavy, as if someone else was speaking through him. The visions he'd seen, the ancient battle long before the system descended, the figures in black robes, the final survivor sealing the gate. He could still hear the whispers. "Come closer. You already know what must be done." Ethan's heart pounded. If the S-rank team failed, if they didn't understand what they were dealing with, it was over. Not just for them, for everyone. Valen studied Ethan for a long moment. The other S-ranks remained silent. Then, "You're certain?" His voice was calm, yet edged with something dangerous. Ethan nodded. Valan turned to his team. "What do you think?" Darius grunted. "If the kid's right, then brute force won't be enough." Kayla sighed. "Much as I hate to admit it, we don't know what's behind that gate." Lyra's golden eyes flickered toward Ethan's chest, as if she could sense the mark. "He's connected to it," she murmured. Orin smirked. "Great, so we've got a chosen one situation." Razik chuckled. "Wouldn't be the first." Valen exhaled. "Fine." He looked at Ethan, his gaze sharp. "We're handling the gate. But you're coming with us." Ethan's team exchanged glances. Gareth nodded. Leah sighed, gripping her staff. Kara scowled. "If they screw this up, I'm saying I told you so." Ethan swallowed. This is happening. He was about to fight alongside legends, against something none of them understood. And if they failed, it wouldn't just be the city that fell, it would be the entire world. Chapter 45. The Final Seal. A Battle for Control. The air was suffocating. The final chain rattled violently, its glowing inscriptions flickering like a dying flame. Ethan could feel it. The gate of the Forgotten was seconds away from breaking, and the thing inside was waiting, and his mark burning hotter than ever. The 6 S-rank adventurers stood ready, their expressions grim but composed. Ethan's team wasn't as calm. Leah's hands trembled around her staff. Kara's knuckles were white, gripping her sword too tightly. Gareth's usual stillness was broken by the faint tension in his stance. They all knew. This wasn't a battle they were supposed to win. This was a battle to survive. And for the first time in his life, Ethan wasn't sure if survival was an option. Veylan Stormrider, the leader of the S-rank team, exhaled slowly. "We only get one shot at this." His voice cut through the tension like a blade. Darius Ironheart, the unbreakable guardian, planted his massive tower shield into the stone floor. "We're forming a defensive perimeter," he rumbled. "Whatever comes out of that thing, we hold the line." Kayla Ravencrown, the arcane executioner, flicked her wrist. Floating runes formed around her fingertips, crackling with raw power. "I'll suppress whatever magic leaks through," she said. "If it tries to use spells, I cancel them." Razik Thornfang, the Phantom Slayer, chuckled darkly. "And if something too fast gets through," he twirled a blackened dagger. "I take care of it." Lyra Moonveil, the celestial healer, whispered a soft prayer, her aura glowing with golden light. "We have no idea how corrupting this thing is," she murmured. "I'll keep us stable, but if anyone feels influenced, say something immediately." Orin Blackthorn, the arcane juggernaut, cracked his neck. "And me?" His grin widened. "I break things." Ethan nodded slowly. "And me?" Veylan's gaze locked onto his. "You stay alive." A deep rumble shook the ruins. The final chain cracked. Then it shattered. A wave of black energy exploded outward, so powerful that even the S-rank adventurers were forced to brace themselves. Ethan's vision blurred. The whispers turned into a roar. "The seal breaks. We are free. Come forward, little predator." The gate of the Forgotten cracked open, and something stepped through. At first it was just darkness, a void-like mist spilling from the gate, crawling along the ground like living tendrils. Then the shape formed, a shifting figure, too tall and too thin, and its limbs twisted unnaturally. Moving with an unnatural grace, and its face was an empty void, a gaping abyss where no features should exist. Black sigils burned across its skin, shifting constantly, as if reality itself couldn't define what it was. Ethan's heart stopped. Because it wasn't just a monster. It was a forgotten entity, something that shouldn't exist, something that had been sealed away long before the system came into this world. Something that had been waiting for this exact moment. And when it spoke, it didn't use words, it used thoughts, it used power, it used everything. "You are late." The thing moved first, not with steps, it glided. One moment it was standing still, the next. It was inside the group, a blackened claw lashed toward Leah. Darius slammed his shield down, intercepting the strike with a force that shook the entire chamber. Titan's wall activated. A shockwave rippled outward. The creature hissed, recoiling slightly, but not much. Kayla raised her hand. Mana disruption activated. A ripple of anti-magic surged forward, but the creature simply absorbed it. Then flickered forward. Kayla barely had time to blink away, reappearing a few feet back. Orin cursed. "It's fast." Veylan's sword glowed with void energy. Void slash activated. His blade cut through the air and landed. A deep gash appeared across the creature's chest, only for the wound to stitch itself back together instantly. Ethan's stomach dropped. His mark pulsed violently. The entity turned toward him. "You hold the key." Ethan staggered, his mind blurred, and suddenly, he wasn't in the ruins anymore. He stood in a world of shadows. He saw them, the ancient sorcerers who had sealed this thing away, the warriors who had fought and died to stop it, the final survivor carving the sigil into their own chest, the same mark Ethan now bore. And then he saw what was coming, a future where the seal was completely gone, a world where this thing walked freely, a world without light, a world where no one survived, and Ethan realized he wasn't supposed to fight it. He was supposed to seal it again. Back to reality, Ethan gasped, his body snapping back to the present. The battle was still raging. The S-rank adventurers were pushing the creature back, but barely. It wasn't losing, it was learning, adapting, waiting for the moment it could completely escape, and Ethan knew they didn't have the strength to kill it. But they might have the strength to bind it. We have to seal it again. His voice rang out. We need to restrain it, not kill it. Valen's head snapped toward him. You're certain? Ethan nodded. Then tell us how. Ethan swallowed hard, because he had seen it. The ritual, the ancient binding, and now he had to recreate it. Before the creature broke free completely, and before it was too late. Chapter 46, The Ancient Binding, a Ritual Against Time. A fight against the unstoppable. The ruins trembled, cracks forming along the ancient walls as the battle raged. The entity, the Forgotten One, shifted and warped, a being of pure corruption, barely contained in a twisted, unstable form. It could not be wounded. It could not be killed. It was learning with every second. The 6 S-rank adventurers fought like legends, their attacks powerful enough to shatter mountains. But it wasn't enough. Ethan's team was already struggling to keep up. Leah's barriers cracked under the pressure, Kara's blades barely cut before the wounds sealed. Gareth's strikes landed, but the thing didn't even flinch. They were fighting a force beyond mortality. And Ethan knew the truth now. We can't win this fight. They had one chance, one way to stop it. They had to seal it away before it fully escaped. And he was the key. Ethan gritted his teeth, his mark pulsing violently beneath his shirt. He remembered the vision, the ancient sorcerers who had bound this thing before. The sacrificial mark they had used to fuel the seal. The runes, the incantations, the blood price. He had to recreate it. And if he failed, this thing would be free forever. I need space, Ethan shouted. Valen's Stormrider, the Voidblade Warlord, didn't hesitate. Void Severance activated. He slashed through the air, tearing a rift of nothingness between Ethan and the Forgotten One, forcing the entity back. Whatever you're doing, Valen said, silver eyes blazing, do it fast. Ethan's heart pounded. This was it. He spread his arms and the mark on his chest flared with light. System override detected. Warning, you are attempting to use ancient magic outside the system's jurisdiction. Proceed? Ethan ignored the warnings. He slammed his hand against the ground. Sealing sigil, activation initiated. A circle of glowing runes erupted from the stone beneath them, stretching 50 meters wide. The same sigils that had been burned into his mind from the visions, they formed exactly as he remembered. Kayla Ravencrown, the arcane executioner, cursed. That's not modern magic. Lyra Moonveil, the celestial healer, paled. That's forbidden. Ethan didn't care. He had no other choice. He lifted his arms and spoke the words of the ancients, a language no one should know, a spell no one should cast, a power that even the system itself feared. The runes flared, burning white-hot, and the Forgotten One screamed. The moment Ethan invoked the binding magic, the Forgotten One attacked. It moved faster than ever. It twisted space around it, trying to break free. It screamed in a voice that wasn't a sound, but a force. You cannot bind me again. This world is mine. Darius Ironheart, the unbreakable guardian, roared as he slammed his shield into the ground. Bulwark of the gods, activated. A massive golden barrier erupted, blocking the creature's wild tendrils from reaching Ethan. Razik Thornfang, the phantom slayer, blurred into the shadows. He reappeared directly behind the entity and drove his daggers into the shifting void. Soul Rend, activated. For the first time, the Forgotten One shuddered. Not in pain. Ethan's arms burned. The sealing magic was taking its toll. The ancient script demanded power, a sacrifice of mana, of body, of life force. It was consuming him to complete the seal. His vision blurred. The voices grew louder. One must bear the mark. One must be the anchor. Ethan's breath hitched. He finally understood. The reason the last survivor in his vision had carved the sigil into their own chest. The seal wasn't just magic, it was a living link, a chain that required a soul, and if they were going to contain this thing again, someone had to be the chain, someone had to stay behind. Ethan steeled himself. He knew what he had to do, but before he could act, Valen grabbed him. You're not doing this alone, the Voidblade Warlord snapped. Ethan's eyes widened. You can't. Valen's silver eyes burned. I've fought nightmares before, he said. I've lost friends to things like this, and I won't let a damn kid carry this burden alone. Lyra Moonveil stepped forward. Neither will I. Kayla sighed. I can't believe I'm agreeing to this, but fine. Darius cracked his knuckles. We all hold the line. The S-rank team wasn't just watching anymore. They were binding it with him. The binding complete. The runes flared one last time. Ethan gritted his teeth as the seal locked into place. The Forgotten One screamed, its form twisting, warping, being dragged back. The black mist pulled inward. The runes sealed the cracks. The entity was forced back into its prison. The final word of the ritual left Ethan's lips, and the gate slammed shut. A deep boom echoed through the ruins, and then silence. Ethan collapsed to his knees. The seal was intact. The gate was closed again. His body shook, exhausted, every muscle screaming from the magical toll, but it was done. The world was safe, for now. Leah rushed to his side. Ethan! Kara let out a shaky laugh. Holy shit, that worked. Gareth simply let out a deep breath. Valen exhaled, sheathing his sword. We need to reinforce the seal, he said. Make sure this doesn't happen again. Ethan nodded, barely able to move. Because he knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Because whatever that thing was, it wasn't just a prisoner. It was a god forgotten by time. And Ethan had just become its warden. Chapter 47. A price paid. The truth of the seal. The ruins no longer trembled. The gate of the Forgotten stood sealed once more, its surface dull and lifeless, the last of its corrupted energy fading into nothing. But everyone could feel it. The world had changed. The seal had worked, but at a cost. And Ethan was no longer the same. Ethan stared at his hands, his body numb, his breath ragged. Something inside him had shifted. The mark on his chest still pulsed faintly. But it wasn't the same as before. Before, it had been a burden. Now, it felt like a key. System override detected. Warning, you have interacted with an entity beyond system classification. Processing changes. Ethan's vision blurred as a new status screen forced its way into his mind. Status update, Ethan Voss. Class evolution, Abyss Walker. Title earned, Warden of the Forgotten. New passive ability unlocked, Eternal Chain. New skill unlocked, Abyssal Lock. His heartbeat slammed against his ribs. This isn't just an upgrade. The system is rewriting me. Leah's voice broke through his haze. Ethan? He looked up. His friends, the S-rank team, they were all staring at him, and he realized they had seen it. The moment the seal completed, something about him had changed. Lyra Moonveil, the celestial healer, stepped forward, her golden eyes scanning him with an unreadable expression. You're different. Ethan swallowed. Yeah. Kayla Ravencrown, the arcane executioner, crossed her arms. The system gave you a title, didn't it? He hesitated. Warden of the Forgotten. The air grew colder. Even the S-rank adventurers reacted. Valen's Storm Rider's gaze hardened. That's not just a title, he said. That's a binding. Darius Ironheart frowned. You don't earn something like that without a cost. Razik Thornfang, the Phantom Slayer, tilted his head. So what did you lose? Ethan clenched his fists. That was the problem. He didn't know yet. But he could feel it, the weight, the chains. He wasn't just connected to the seal, he was part of it now. And that meant, if the gate ever broke again, so would he. Gareth placed a heavy hand on Ethan's shoulder. You shouldn't carry this alone. Leah nodded, her expression full of worry. You always act like you can handle everything. But this is different. Kara, for once, didn't argue. She just muttered, yeah. This one's a bit above your pay grade. Ethan let out a weak laugh. Understatement of the year. But deep down, he knew. This was his burden now, and nothing was ever going to change that. Valen studied Ethan for a long time before speaking. You've been marked by something beyond the system. His silver eyes darkened. This isn't over, not for you. Ethan nodded. I know. Valen exhaled. We'll report this to the capital, he said, but you need to understand something. Kayla picked up where he left off. You're not just some B-rank adventurer anymore, she said. You're something else. Razik smirked. Something dangerous. Orin chuckled. Yeah, that title of yours. That's gonna make you real popular with people who want to know what you are now. Ethan's stomach twisted. So it's not just the master I have to worry about. It's everyone else too. A new path. A new threat. The capital would learn of this. The Adventurers Guild would learn of this. And soon, so would the master. Because even though they had sealed the gate again, Ethan could still hear it. A whisper, faint, lingering. This is not the end. The chains will break again. And next time, little warden, you will not stop us. Ethan closed his eyes because he knew one thing for certain. Chapter 48. The Journey Back and the Capital's Reaction. The Gate of the Forgotten was sealed. The battle was over. But the world beyond these ruins had already begun to change. Ethan could feel it. The weight of the new title pressed against him. The whispers of the Forgotten One still lingered in his mind. The system's silence unnerved him more than its warnings ever had. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about what came next, and Ethan had the sinking feeling that, whatever it was, it wouldn't be waiting long. The departure, the trek back to Portland, was silent. The S-rank team led the way, their presence looming even in stillness. Ethan's party followed, their exhaustion heavy in every step. No monsters attacked, no disturbances arose. It was unnatural, like even the wilds could sense that something had changed. Or perhaps something was watching, waiting, letting them leave for now. By the third day of travel, the reality of what had happened settled in. Kara sighed, adjusting the strap on her pack. You know, normally after we finish a dungeon, I like to celebrate. Leah shot her a tired glare. You nearly died. Kara shrugged. Yeah, which is why I want a drink. Gareth let out a quiet chuckle. You always want to drink. Ethan, however, didn't respond. His mark still pulsed faintly under his skin. A reminder. A warning. Because he knew they had stopped it for now, but it wouldn't hold forever. And when it broke again, no one would be ready. A tense arrival at the guild. By the time they reached Portland, word had already spread. The Adventurers Guild was buzzing with energy. Reports of the missing B-rank team's fate had leaked. Rumors of a sealed ancient entity circulated the halls, and Ethan's name was being whispered everywhere. He felt the stares, not just at him, at all of them, but especially at the 6 S-rank adventurers walking beside them. Because S-ranks never showed up unless something truly dangerous had happened. And this? This was beyond dangerous. This was something else. The moment they stepped into the guild hall, Elias was waiting. The guild master's sharp eyes locked onto them, his usually composed face grim. Inside, he ordered, motioning toward the guild's private meeting room. No hesitation, no questioning. The moment they entered, Elias closed the door. Then he turned to Veylan, arms crossed. Tell me, Elias said, his voice cold, what the hell happened out there? The report Veylan didn't waste words. He explained everything. The disappearance of the B-rank team. The Gate of the Forgotten and its breaking chains. The ancient being that nearly escaped. The sealing ritual and Ethan's unexpected role in it. Elias listened without interruption. But the more Veylan spoke, the darker his expression became, and when the report was finished, Elias exhaled deeply, rubbing his temples. This is worse than I expected. The guild's decision. Elias looked at Veylan. Did the capital send you to assess the ruins or to eliminate the threat? Veylan's silver eyes hardened. Both. Silence. Then Elias turned to Ethan. You understand what this means, don't you? Ethan nodded slowly. He wasn't stupid. The guild wouldn't just ignore this. The capital would demand answers. And Ethan? He was now a piece in a much larger game, a game he hadn't agreed to play. But one he was stuck in nonetheless. Elias's gaze softened, just slightly. You've done good work, Ethan, he said. You all have. A pause. But you're not just an adventurer anymore. Ethan's stomach twisted. He had known that, but hearing it out loud made it real. You need to be careful, Elias continued. The capital will want to control you. Veylan nodded. They'll want to study you, the S-rank leader said. Use you. Kayla sighed. They'll probably send someone to invite you to the capital soon. Orin smirked. And it won't be optional. Ethan exhaled. Of course, the moment the system gave him a title beyond their understanding, the moment the gate recognized him as its warden, the moment he changed. The world took notice, and now, it was only a matter of time before they came knocking. Leah frowned. So what do we do? Elias crossed his arms. For now, nothing. His gaze flickered toward Ethan. Lay low. Keep working. Don't draw attention. Kara scoffed. Kinda late for that, don't you think? Elias sighed. Just don't make it worse. Ethan nodded slowly. For now, he had no choice but to wait. But deep down, he already knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. And when the capital finally made their move, Ethan would have to decide his next step. Before someone decided for him. Chapter 49. The Class Examination and the End of the Beginning. Ethan should have expected this. After everything, the battle, the seal, the capital's interference, the Adventurers Guild wasn't about to let him walk away without answers. His class had evolved. His title had changed. His power was now beyond standard classification. And that meant one thing. A class examination, a mandatory test to determine what he had become. Ethan stood in the center of the Guild's assessment chamber, surrounded by Guild officials, magic analysts, and combat instructors. Leah, Kara, and Gareth were watching from the side, tension clear in their expressions. The S-rank adventurers had left the city earlier that morning, but their warning remained. This test wasn't just about ranking Ethan, it was about control. And if the Guild didn't like what they found, they might try to take control of him themselves. The Guildmaster, Elias Thurman, stood at the front of the room, arms crossed. All right, Ethan, he said, let's begin. A system interface materialized in the air, a modified assessment tool used only for rare cases. Ethan took a deep breath. The moment he placed his hand on the crystal panel, the system reacted violently. Error, unknown class detected. Processing. Calibrating new class parameters. The entire chamber darkened. A pulse of void-like energy rippled outward, unlike any standard class assessment before. The observers tensed. Then, after several tense seconds, the results flashed, assessing the unknown. The Guildmaster, Elias Thurman, stood at the front of the room, arms crossed. All right, Ethan, he said, let's begin. A system interface materialized in the air, a modified assessment tool used only for rare cases. Ethan took a deep breath. The moment he placed his hand on the crystal panel, the system reacted violently. Error, unknown class detected. Processing. Calibrating new class parameters. The entire chamber darkened. A pulse of void-like energy rippled outward, unlike any standard class assessment before. The observers tensed. Then, after several tense seconds, the results flashed. Ethan's new class, Abyss Walker. Name, Ethan Voss. Rank, B-rank adventurer. Class, Abyss Walker. Unique. Subclass, Warden of the Forgotten. Abyss Walker, a hybrid combat class specializing in dark magic, stealth, and binding techniques. Warden of the Forgotten, a subclass tied to the sealed entity, granting access to unknown energies. New class abilities unlocked. Abyssal Lock, unique, binding magic. Ethan can momentarily seal an enemy's abilities, weakening them significantly. Void Step, rare, movement ability. Ethan can teleport through shadows, ignoring normal terrain. Predator's Chain, unique, passive, allows Ethan to strengthen his abilities against entities connected to the Forgotten One. Mark of the Warden, passive, unidentified effect, awaiting further growth. The room was silent. Ethan exhaled slowly. This wasn't just an evolution, it was a shift into something entirely new. Elias studied the results. The other guild officials murmured amongst themselves. Kara muttered, "That's not normal, right?" Gareth crossed his arms. "Not even close." Leah looked at Ethan. "How do you feel?" Ethan clenched his fists. Stronger, but also different. Before he could answer, Elias finally spoke. "You're officially classified as a unique path adventurer. a rare category outside traditional ranking structures. But then, Elias's gaze darkened, which means from this point forward, the guild will be keeping a close eye on you. The celebration and the weight of it all. Despite the tension of the examination, the guild still insisted on a celebration. The successful mission, the survival of Ethan's team, the defeat, or at least sealing, of the Forgotten One. The guild hall was lively that evening. Drinks were poured, stories were told. Even Kara and Leah managed to laugh, despite their exhaustion. But Ethan, he felt the weight of everything, the title, the class, the thing still waiting in the dark. And worst of all, the inevitable approach of the capital. He knew this peace wouldn't last, but for tonight, he let himself pretend, just for a while. The streets of Portland were quiet as Ethan made his way home. His body was heavy with exhaustion, his mind swirled with everything that had happened. By the time he locked his door, he barely made it to his bed. As soon as he hit the mattress, his body gave in. Sleep took him instantly, and for the first time in days, there were no nightmares. Or so he thought. End of Book 1, The Abysswalker's Awakening. A look into Book 2, The Master's Invitation. Ethan awoke with a start, but something was wrong. The bed beneath him was gone. The warmth of his home vanished. The familiar weight of Portland's air missing. Instead, cold stone beneath him, a vast, endless darkness stretching in every direction. A presence, watching. Then a voice, smooth, amused, inevitable. Finally awake, little predator? Ethan's blood ran cold because he knew who it was. The master had taken him.